Hey guys, thank you for having me here. We actually saw lots of friends, old friends today, our investors, ABCD, Foresight, our partners, lots of old friends from Bitcoin ecosystems, and I'm really, honored to share something about Merlin chain. So we start building about Bitcoin layer one assets, ordinals, BRC20s, all this stuff since last year. This is my first, startup in Web3 because I was so attracted and fascinated by the idea of ordinals. I actually met Domo outside of the conference today, and we were talking and say like, yeah, I think BTC5 is cool, right? But I love ordinals more. So that's where we started. Because I think, before ordinals, there was like nobody talking about Bitcoin. There's like no ecosystems, no users. I mean, there are lots of holders, there are lots of buyers of Bitcoin. There's ETF coming up, but they're just not retail users joining the space to create stuff, to do all kinds of, asset launching, trading. All these user needs came from, ordinals and also, atomicals, runes, BRC20. All of this coming from last year. That's why we have so many Bitcoin layer 2 this year. That's why we have so many Bitcoin staking and restaking this year. So this is where we started. But the goal of Merlin chain, the first goal of Merlin chain is to provide more liquidity. If you look at all this on-chain data, I think this is the old version of data. Right now, we have about $2.2 billion trading volume for spot. We have about 2.5 billion trading volume for perps. So if you look at like the biggest, Bitcoin DEX, the biggest Bitcoin perp trading, the biggest, Bitcoin bridge, ruins trading platform, liquid restaking tokens, like most of them are on Merlin chain, and we want to bring this liquidity to users. So another example is, we have like the asset bitmap on Bitcoin layer 1, but people trade them, on layer 1 is like expensive, slower, about like 300, 400, bitmaps traded on layer 1. But if you look at on Merlin, one transaction, people use one transaction to sell or buy over 1,000 bitmaps. So that's why we say, bring more liquidity to all these assets. And if you look at like Avalon Landing, if you look at all this ideal the stuff, that's because we are using this smart contract kind of method to do all this trading, all these functionalities to these Bitcoin layer 1 assets. So you have your assets on Bitcoin layer 1, that's fine, and then you trade them on layer 2. Much lower gas fee, faster, confirmation time, and we can do GameFi, SocialFi on layer 2. We can do cross-chain DEX, from Solana to Merlin, from Arbitrum to Merlin. That is what we're trying to do. The second thing is, our partners talked before, the Soft team, the Babylon team. We are trying to get the BTC5 going on. Because right now, if you have one Bitcoin in your layer 1 wallet, you basically just have one Bitcoin. You don't have any yields. I mean, the price will go, from like low to high, but you want more Bitcoin in your wallets. That's why we are the first one in February doing this BTC staking and restaking. So you have one Bitcoin on layer 1, bridge it to Merlin. You have one Merlin Bitcoin, MBTC. And then you use the MBTC to stake in, Solve protocol, Bedrock, P-Stake, Lorenzo. You can use that to stake in other protocols, and then you bridge out. So right now, if you look at Merlin Bitcoin, it can you can use Bridge to cross to 15, 20 plus different EVM chains, including Nina, Scroll, Arbitrum, BNB Chain, Mode, ZK Link, and then you can farm tokens on the other chains. And if you look at on the layer 1 address, you can see in past 6 months, there are over $20 billion value Bitcoin bridging and bridge out from Merlin to Merlin, and that's like the highest just after Binance and Coinbase in the Bitcoin volume. So we're trying to bring more yields to the users. And so by the end of the year, if you have one Bitcoin on layer 1, if you do this kind of staking and restaking thing, you'll probably have more Bitcoin in your wallet. And then you can sell when the price is high. The last thing is we're trying to do some innovation. You can look at like today. Bitcoin is not a very big ecosystem. There are not millions of users on Bitcoin layer 1. There are some early users, some early adopters for BRC20, for ruins, for ordinals, but it's just not enough. And just imagine if you convince somebody, from Solana, from Solana ecosystem, from Tom, from Arbitrum, from BNB Chain, if you're trying to convince them to buy rooms, like, okay, this new room token, dock to the moon, it's going crazy, buy this token. They just can't, right? Because they don't know how to use Xverse or Unisat or Bitcoin infrastructures to buy these assets on Bitcoin layer 1. But Merlin has the biggest liquidity for ruins and BRC20, and it's going to be much easier for those users to buy. How can we do that? So for example, if you have BNB on BNB chain, you can just use the smart contract on BNB chain to buy dog ruins, from Merlin. You don't need to bridge. You don't even need to have, you don't need to have Merlin Bitcoin. You just use BNB to buy these BRC20 ruins. That's what we call, bring more massive adoption, bring more liquidity from other ecosystems, from all these, already, fully matured ecosystem with users. So then we can have more builders here. We can have more liquidity to these Bitcoin assets. And also, we're trying to build something, like the BMAP game. We actually had a new version of BMAP game on Merlin, which is, one-stop metaverse that you don't really play games, but you can experience all this, trading experience. So you can go to metaverse with hundreds of friends. You can see all these hot mints. You can swap. You can do perp trading. You can do staking. You can do lending. So we want this experience to be fun, because our slogan is make Bitcoin fun again on day one. So we want to have all these innovations. We want to have all these users and builders not only doing DeFi on Bitcoin, but doing something, more related to ordinals, to BRC20, to ruins, and that is our belief. So I'll end this with our slogan on day one. We don't want to make Bitcoin great again. We don't want to make Bitcoin, expensive more. We want to make Bitcoin fun again. That is our goal. Yeah, thank you guys.